You've lectured on this topic, and the exploration of
Yes,
AI is either explicitly or in the shadow of the exploration of human consciousness.
yes,
Now, can you discuss the relationship between AI and human consciousness as you see it?
sure, sure. That's a very current and very profound question and topic. The whole definition of consciousness itself, of course, is an exercise in its own right. I'd like to begin pragmatically in the following way and then move to AI. To try to build a model of consciousness, is in our spiritual tradition of Kabbalah two different processes that are interfacing. One's called machine, and one's called the energy flow for the machine. The machine is the body. The body is a biological piece of machinery. However, it can't function without an energy flow in the same way as your bed lamp can't function unless we switch on and allow the electrical flow. So we call that energy flow, for want of a better term, the soul. You can just use the word energy if you feel more comfortable with it, spiritual energy. When that spiritual energy is turned on, and that's called conception, prior to birth, then the result is that the energy begins to flow through what is at that point the most simplistic body, which is a cell. And then as the cell multiplies, the spiritual energy flows through a larger machine, and then a larger machine until birth takes place. And you've got the complexity of the machinery of a human body. And then that too continues to evolve. So the capacity of the soul to express becomes more profound. Now, the soul is totally intact. It doesn't grow. It's fully there. It's programmed. It's already a finished product, but it doesn't yet have the hardware, which is the body, to be able to optimally flow through it until maturity sets in. And then even with life experience and body growth, it continues to have even greater capacities of expression.
Mm-hmm.
Consciousness, coming to the crux of the matter, is the human experience of that energy flowing through the machinery of the body. So, for example, if I experience the sense of touch and I'm consciousness of the touch, that means that the soul energy is flowing through my fingers to the tips of the fingers. In much more complex ways, the brain. The brain is a much more complex piece of hardware. And therefore, when we operate the energy through the brain, that experience is called mind. And that becomes mind consciousness. Okay. When we experience the total flow of energy through the whole body, that's what we commonly call consciousness. It's a sum total of everything. Let's talk about IT for a moment. IT also is made up of the two components. You've got the hardware and you've got the software. Mm-hmm. And both have their limitations. The more sophisticated the hardware, the greater the capacity for more sophisticated software. Software is written by human beings. Mm-hmm. Hardware is constructed by human beings. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, each step of their development is defined by the limitation of human beings. But you can't compare the software to the flow of a soul through the body. In other words, it just depends what we happen to input. If we input bias, there'll be bias. If we input racial vilification, there'll be racial vilification. If we input anything in terms of certain pieces of data, not other pieces of data, that'll be limited. We will never, ever, this is a big statement, get to a state where IT is conscious or sentient, because that is a completely different process. It's not just a matter of software. It's not just a matter of electrical circuit. It's a matter of something which is of the nature of infinity, which is the way we define the soul, mm-hmm. interfacing with finity of the design of the human body, etc. That can't be replicated. All we can do is become more and more sophisticated in our programming and more sophisticated in our hardware, and therefore be able to achieve more. One last statement. Mm-hmm. Of course, a calculator in a computer is able to compute much faster than we can. So we jump to the conclusions that it must be superior to us. And then we jump to the next conclusion. Maybe it'll reach a superiority, which therefore ultimately will have the consciousness, which I'm saying to you it can't, to be able to enslave its master, the human being. Impossible. That's sci-fi at its worst, meaning a proposition that cannot actually take place. No, that won't be the case. We can use IT as a great tool in the same ways we use a hammer as a great tool on a nail. Our hand can't hit as hard as the leverage of a hammer. So do we say the hammer, therefore, is something we're scared of because it'll become so hammerful that it'll outgrow the human being? Ridiculous statement. Same with all computer technology.
Yeah, well, I hope you're right. I do see it more of an augmentation thing. The other thing I agree with completely is fundamentally, this is it's all about the relationship between the finite and the infinite. Again, as religious people, we kind of understand that, and I think that's something the materialists just don't get, because if you're a materialist, you don't kind of really
think of infinity. Yeah,
you know, it's you know, at best a mathematical abstraction, whereas we know that reality, in a certain extent, with certain qualifications, is a manifestation of that relationship.